As many of my friends know, I'm a huge fan of Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege.
Like 30 rounds in the magazine, and it's like fully automatic, so you can destroy rooms with it really fast. Oh, the aim!
The aim! Puts more rounds into the floor than he did Mag.
Ooh, she's in your left.
You better kill if you down her, you gotta kill her with a black eye.
Oh! What, bitch? What?
She's using our own shield again.
Oh! Oh! No! Holy shit. And I'm also a huge fan of other police simulators like SWAT4, Grand Theft Auto 5 RP, a lot of the different police simulators that they have out there. Now, when it comes down to police simulators, Rainbow Six Siege really missed the mark from the other Rainbow Six games that were out. Tom Clancy had Rainbow Six, Rainbow Six Vegas, Rainbow Six Vegas 2, which were the staples of the Rainbow Six community. That really built a cult-like following when it came down to Rainbow Six. And when Rainbow Six Siege was initially announced, you had what seemed to be a perfect police simulator where you could plan out your breaches, you could plan out every single move from top down, and communication was a huge factor. When it comes to SWAT4, you really do have to plan, and planning is very essential. You can arrest people, you can make the arrest that you want to do in those games. Now, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege does have Terrorist Hunt, which isn't bad, but you still can't arrest people, and planning really isn't much of anything. It's just practice for PvP in maps that don't even go in PvP. And that kind of sucks. When it comes down to SWAT, I don't know the exact logistics behind it, but SWAT 5 would have really been great because it probably would have implemented all of these things that didn't go in Rainbow Six Siege, and it probably would have been the perfect police simulator, if not the best police simulator out there. But unfortunately, with all of the issues behind SWAT 4, SWAT 5 will never be released. Now, if you were to combine Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege and SWAT 4 together, you would probably get a very intense PvP game that would blow your mind. Now, I've come to accept that Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege will not be what it used to be, and I don't know if they're planning other Rainbow Six titles, but we will probably end up with very similar mechanics to what we have now, and it will probably just be another PvP game versus a co-op game where you can go in, make your arrest, have a storyline behind it. Now, I've come to live with the fact that SWAT 4 will never have another SWAT game in the series. SWAT 4 is the final and last SWAT game that will probably ever exist. Now, if you close both of your eyes and take a second to imagine this fever dream of an almost perfect game, you would end up with 0 Hour. 0 Hour is a police SWAT simulator, but it has the PvP aspect to this police SWAT simulator. When you look at 0 Hour in depth, it has player versus environment, similar to a campaign for SWAT and what they had previously in Rainbow Six in the PvP aspect, because they do have hostage, bomb, and they do have the regular team deathmatch. This game is going for $12 as of time of recording on Steam, and it's not a bad buy. When you look at the different weapon aspects, granted you don't have the abilities like in Rainbow Six Siege, but you do have real world weapons that you can pick from, and they very much work almost exactly like you expect them to. It does have recoil to the different firearms in there, and they do fit very well with the weapons that are being used. Granted, these weapons are very basic and there's not that big of a selection to choose from. When it comes down to the attacking side or the counter-terrorist side, the counter-terrorist does have the same weapons that you would expect from a modern counter-terrorist team. You do have your SCAR, your AR, your MP5, you do have your shield to go ahead and go in front of you. However, that's about all the shield operator can do. They can't hold a firearm while they're holding the shield, and the shield is really just a bullet magnet where if someone throws a grenade behind you, you're shit out of luck. You do have your small weapons, and you have 2 handguns that you can pick from. You have your night vision goggles, you have your C2 charges, you have all of these very basic weapons that you would think that you can pick from as a SWAT operator, and that is not to its own demise. However, you can't select the attachments. If you don't want a laser on a rifle because you feel like you would give away your position, well, don't pick that rifle, or just don't put on your night vision goggles to send off the laser. You might have to sit there and look through your RCO in order to be able to get those enemies. When it comes down to the terrorist side, you have 3 primary weapons that you can pick from. You can pick the MP7 with the silencer up there, or you can pick a Kalashnikov. You have these 3 weapons, but you can very much pick from the enemy team once you've killed them and pick up their weapons, and you can have it until the next round. You would think that a lot of people do that, but not very many people do. When it comes down to the environment of the game, it can be ever changing. Now, it's not like Battlefield, and it's not like Siege where you can shoot holes into soft walls and be able to see through those holes, because if you shoot at a wall, it's just that. You shot a wall and now everyone knows where you are. When it comes down to changing the environment for the game, the only thing that you can do to rapidly change the environment is turning off the power. This makes it harder for the defending team to be able to use things like lights. Only lights that you can use is the lights on your weapons or mounted on your head. For the counter-terrorist team, they do have night vision goggles, which are directly affected by light sources inside of the game. This would make you think that the environment hasn't changed that much, it just made the lights go out. Well, you can't raise the gates on some of the buildings. Does this affect the camera usage for the defending team? It does. However, they can still bunker down where they are to be able to use the environment to their advantage. The terrorist team also has things such as door jams and wedges to be able to prevent attackers from coming in and using a specific door. And they have door traps that can prevent attackers from being able to just utilize any door that they please, because you don't know if there may be a trap lurking behind that door. Granted, with this in mind, the counter-terrorist team still has the ability to go ahead and knock that door down, similar to what you would have expected in Rainbow Six Siege and what you did see in SWAT, by using a breaching shotgun or a C2 charge to be able to breach that door. And if then they do see that door trap, they can go ahead and put 1 round into it and disable that door trap. Sometimes they don't see it, and that leads to a casualty, which those casualties come very quickly in this game. This game has a very realistic perspective, that it doesn't have all the realism when it comes down to breaking the environment. The game still has the ability to make you feel like you're fully immersed in a SWAT versus terrorist, where you're trying to go ahead and get the enemies neutralized, or you're trying to go ahead and rescue a hostage, or you're trying to disable a bomb from a hostage's vest. Now, unlike Rainbow Six Siege and SWAT4, this game does not have the same things that you're looking at whenever you're looking to play the game. There were times where I was sitting in queue for upwards of an hour to an hour and a half waiting for a match when I started a new game. Most of the time, you just have to join an already in progress match to be able to play. Rainbow Six Siege has a huge player base and still holds 70 million copies sold. SWAT4 might not have that many copies sold. This game doesn't have the same aspects when it comes down to a 5v5 player versus player aspect of the game, because sometimes you're in a match where it's only 2 counter-terrorists versus 2 terrorists, or you're in a match where it's a full squad of counter-terrorists versus 2 terrorists. This kind of breaks you away from the immersion of thinking that you're getting a 5v5, and sometimes the game doesn't fill up all the way. Now, when the game does fill up all the way, you do have to rely on your teammates heavily, because communication is very crucial when it comes down to this game. Communication is one of the biggest staples of this game that I realized very quickly you need to utilize. When I first started playing this game, I didn't think you had to communicate as much as you did. Sound is very important in this game along with communication. Sound, every sound is very crucial. There were times where you'd hear somebody rappelling and you'd have to try and figure out where they're rappelling from. It's not that the sound bounces off the walls or anything else like that. Sometimes you might hear them to your left, but you also might hear somebody toss up a rappel and take it off on your right. You have to determine which target is going to be more of a threat to you. You might hear gunfire on the first floor and you have to communicate with your buddies to make sure that the sound that you heard on the first floor was actually them neutralizing a target. Looking at who killed who sometimes does not always help, because when you look at it, it might take your eyes off the center of the screen and then you've missed your opportunity. When it comes down to it, sound is one of the most important things that fully immerses you in the game. When it comes down to the hostage, it's very important on the terrorist side that you make sure that you know where the hostage is, because unlike in Rainbow Six Siege, unlike in SWAT4, and unlike a lot of other SWAT simulators or police simulators for that matter, that hostage can leave. If you're not paying enough attention to that hostage can very much get up, realize that you're not looking at him, and run from the point that you had him at. Now, is there a way to counteract this? Frankly, I don't know. I've always stayed and stuck with the hostage to make sure that the hostage doesn't go anywhere. But I have seen it on other people's live streams where the hostage gets up. This is where the power aspect comes into play. On the maps where the electronic gates work, it's very important that the terrorist team turns off the power. That way the counter-terrorist team can't raise the gates and have the hostage just run out. If you do have the power cut off, the hostage can't just escape from where you have it. Now, although the game doesn't have a story to it, it still has a very good player versus environment or player versus terrorist side to it that almost can be mistaken as a campaign if you pay attention to the story that's inside of that co-op mode. The game does not have a named protagonist, and nor do you have special abilities like you do in Rainbow Six Siege, but it does very much feel like you do have a point to playing that character. Although all of the characters at this time are male, I do believe that they might have some potential of adding female characters that you can select, although that has very little to do with the gameplay. You might not be able to pick unique things for your weapons, nor may you have a unique look. However, the game really does have the PvP 5v5 that you expected to have in Rainbow Six Siege, with sounds being very important, and every single thing that you do in this game being very important to how the environment changes and how players are able to communicate across and be able to accomplish their tasks together. In the co-op mode, just like in SWAT4, you still have to collect the weapons from the enemy. It's not very important in the PvP side because it's a PvP. When it comes to this game, it is a nice mix between Rainbow Six Siege and SWAT4, and it doesn't feel very overwhelming on one side or the other. When it comes down to this game, I very much recommend that people give it a try. As the game's only on sale right now for $12 on Steam, that price could very much go up once they implement all the new things that they are leading to in this game. Down in the description below, I'm going to have a link to where you can find this game on Steam. I hope this review kind of helps you guys understand where the game stands as of right now and where it's probably going to go in the future. Very much I want to see a campaign in this game, and I really do want to see more player versus environment that doesn't really feel more or less like a terrorist hunt, but more like the campaign that the game kind of leads it to. That's all for us here at the coffee shop. I am your man Darkest Roast, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.